Hello crafty friends, this is the Paper Chef here. Welcome to part 2 of my 3-part series on how to create Hershey Nugget Treats using the Let It Snow suite by Stampin' Up. In the first part of this series, I explained how to cut the designer series paper that you need for this project. In that first video, you learned how to create the tag toppers. I said to cut those and save those because we're going to be assembling the project in part 3. You learned how to cut the nugget wrappers. And then I showed you how to wrap the nuggets, and I said your homework was to go wrap some nuggets so you're ready for this part. And lastly, we cut the little hats. Okay, I want to talk about the hats in just a minute and show you what I did after the tutorial. And you should have many hats cut out, or however many. I said to just do a couple, at least do a couple for efficiency. And I put the little holly on the hats. All right, so before I show you what I did after the last video, I want to acknowledge my subscribers. I just reached the 13,000 subscriber threshold. So thank you very much for your support of my channel. I really appreciate all of you for watching and for clicking that subscribe button on my channel. When I get to 14,000, I'm going to definitely do a giveaway, but right now I'm in total craft fair preparation mode. Okay, so I will be doing some kind of giveaway when I reach my next threshold. All right, well, anyway, let's get back to the tutorial. So here is what I did after the last tutorial. I showed you how to cut out a few of these hats out of the designer series paper. And then I went and cut out a whole sheet of hats. And I wanted to tell you a couple things. We're using the CM350 for this tutorial. And I think it did a better job of cutting out this sheet of hats. Because when I used the SDX 125, I had to do a lot more drawing around, particularly these blue hats. A lot more of my pencil trick. But in this case, when I used the CM350, I had a really good success rate, all but just a few hats cut out. We only cut a few in the tutorial. After the tutorial, I cut out this sheet. It took me 19 minutes at a blade depth of 3 for designer series paper. After the 19 minutes were over, I had loads and loads of little hats. Okay, so that's what the sheet looks like. And I told you, don't bother with these ones unless you're going to be drawing around them with a pencil, because the little glitter part won't show up unless you actually enclose that image using a pencil. Okay, so in the end, when I was all done, I already had a few in the tray from before, but I glued all these hats together. I still have loads and loads more. Okay, and so here are some that I have lots of pieces of holly. I have more holly than hats, and here's some I haven't glued together yet. And the great thing is, no pencil tricks were needed. All these little blue hats also cut out. So now I have loads and loads more hats to use. Okay, so let's get into the heart of this matter. In this tutorial, we are going to work with cutting out the snowmen. Okay, and we're going to be cutting out stamped images, both the snowmen from the Snowman Season stamp set and the Let It Snow sentiments. We're going to cut them out. I'm going to show you different ways to create the circles for the sentiments. So let's do all that. And of course, I've been working on these for craft fairs, as I mentioned, and I told you about putting the sticker putting a sticker on the back. I'm not done putting my stickers on the back yet. Contains nuts. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. All right. You might be thinking, Paper Chef, but I have a snowman builder punch. Okay, that's great. I have a snowman builder punch. I love my snowman builder punch. Okay, you can use your snowman builder punch, but if you're making 100 of these or something, your hand might fall off. Okay, the snowman builder punch is great for cutting out that one piece of designer series paper I was telling you about that has the glitter snowman. Okay, you can only do that with the snowman builder punch. This would be almost impossible to recognize using just the ScanNCut. Okay, that's this piece of paper here because there's not enough contrast between the foreground and the background. The Snowman Builder Punch is great for making plain little black hats, which then you can still use the holly for, that we cut out using the designer series paper. Okay, so it's great that you have the Snowman Builder Punch. I also did a tutorial on how to take the the pieces from the Snowman Builder Punch and enlarge them. However, I am all about efficiency. Okay? I'm not gonna make the little arms and glue them on individually if I don't have to. Okay? If I have a ScanNCut, why not use it, right? So that's my reason. I'm not going to use the Snowman Builder Punch for this particular thing. But it is good to have. I love my Snowman Builder Punch. But we're going to do some cool things just by stamping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a little piece of silicone here. This is just my silicone stamping mat. And I'm going to explain how we can get the snowmen to twin. So we can have twin snowmen. You could even use that concept to make a whole little group of snowmen. And I'm just going to show you how to stamp them and then how to color them. And then we're going to, we're not going to color them until we cut them out, but that's just some things that's going on in this part of this, in this coming up. All right, so we need a little piece of Whisper White cardstock. We're not going to do too many, but knowing me, right, I would do, you know what I'm going to say, hopefully, if you've been watching my channel. Yes, I would do a whole entire sheet of these. We're just going to do a couple to show you a few different ways you can stamp the snowman. But really, I would do so many of these and then cut them all out. And in fact, by the next tutorial, I'll have a bunch more nuggets made. All right, so we're using Snowman Season Stamp Set. Okay, it's part of the Let It Snow suite. I've already showed you the Designer Series paper in the suite. Okay, so here's our snowman we're going to use. We're using this one here. And we're going to use Memento Black ink. I've already put the snowman onto a stamping block. It is block D. Block D is a good one to use. Don't put it too close to the edge because you still need room for the snowman arms. Okay, so make sure you don't put it too close to the edge of your paper. When you put the arm on there, it may fall off. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to do another one. Then we'll put arms on a couple, and then I'll show you some more things. Okay, let's put arms. So I've already mounted the arms. So when you mount the arms, which come in the stamp set, I would just lay them onto the snowman and then just stick your block down and put them where you want. And what's nice about having both arms mounted at once is you can kind of tilt them and make the arms go in different ways, which is kind of fun. So when you're inking up the arms, you just tap, tap, tap into the Memento Black ink and then just stamp the arms. Okay, and then tap, 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 stamp the arms again. Okay, now that you have the arms stamped, we can create another snowman next to this one, and we can make little Snowman Twins. And this isn't necessarily just for the Nugget Treats, but just for fun. And this was a happy accident. When I did this the first time, I was like, oh, wow, they stuck together. How cool is that? So you just want the arms to sort of touch a little bit so they look like they're holding hands. I hope you can see that. Crafty friends, let's make sure you can see that. Okay, so you want them to touch a little bit, and then when you cut them out, it'll cut out as one image and you have little Snowman Twins. Okay, one more trick I want to show you is another thing I discovered about, if maybe you don't have maybe you're watching this tutorial and you don't have, the little Designer Series paper is what I was trying to say. Maybe you purchased the stamp set, but you didn't purchase the Designer Series paper to make these really nice, well-shaded hats. But you have the hat. You're like, well, I have the hat from the stamp set. Okay, great. You have the hat from the stamp set. So let me show you what you could do by just putting, again, you're using your ScanNCut for this, but you can just put down, let's show you what to do. You can put down this little piece of acetate. This is a little piece of plastic. I'm going to put it right there. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp Mr. Snowman, okay, but I'm going to go right beneath his eyes, right above his eyes. I'm going to stamp where the plastic is. You'll see in a minute what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so right above his eyes, I stamped a little gap there. Okay, so that way I can put the hat on him. Okay, now you can just wash this off because it's plastic. Okay, now let's take the little hat from the stamp set. Okay, this is for those of you that don't want to cut out the hats with Designer Series paper because it takes forever. And you're like, Paper Chef, it's overkill. I only need to make a couple of these. and you're like, okay, I'm just going to stamp my snowman hat. So then you take your snowman hat and mount the snowman hat. Okay, tap, tap, tap into the Memento Black ink, and you're going to put it right on the line. Okay, so that's my hat trick for the snowman. Okay, so see, now you can cut out as one piece with the ScanNCut. Let's put arms on that one. But these are your 3 different ways you can do this. But this is the one, of course, we're using for the Nugget Treats, the one on the top right. All right, so let's put some arms on this one. And by the way, I did try stamping the arms using soft suede and crumb cake and different shades of brown. None of the brown shades I used came out as nice as just using plain old black arms for the snowman stick arms. All right, now I'm all about teaching you tips and tricks that I learned along the way. And in this particular case, the tip and trick I need to teach you again is my pencil trick. If you've been following my channel, you already know about the pencil trick. If you're trying to scan in these snowmen, if you maybe have already tried using your ScanNCut and you're like, but Paper Chef, they didn't get recognized. That's because there are tiny little gaps. There are tiny little gaps. In fact, let me just show you with the stamp case. It's easier. Here, then I can put it really close to the camera. See those tiny gaps? The Brother ScanNCut CM350, which we're using right now, the ScanNCut 2, has a 300 dots per inch scanner. That means it can recognize 300 dots in just 1 inch, and this is only a couple inches high. So it's very sensitive. And the scanner for the STX 125 is even more sensitive. So when it sees gaps like that, it will then it will not consider this one image. It'll recognize each button separately. It'll recognize the head separately. It'll just be a big hot mess. You need to use the pencil trick to enclose all those little gaps so that when we scan it scans in as one object. It may not seem like big gaps, but they're big enough where it doesn't get recognized. So I'm taking a pencil, and I always get asked this, what kind of pencil? It's a Staples pencil, number 2 pencil. It doesn't matter, just use a pencil. You have to erase it later. Don't use the red eraser. I'll show you how to erase it later. So what I'm doing is I'm just filling in the gaps. Okay, there's 1, let's see, 2, there's that one there, 3, and there's 4 on each snowman. So count to 4 each time you do it to make sure you filled in all 4 gaps. So I already done that one. 1, 2. That one I've already filled in with the ink, but let's just do it with my pencil. Sometimes if you hold your ink there long enough, then you can also fill in the gaps. It depends on how juicy your ink pad is. There's 4. Okay. I'll show you closer up what I'm doing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, see? Just going to compare those two. I filled in the gaps on the one on the right. I didn't fill in the gaps yet on the one on the left. Okay, let me focus back out. And let's do this one. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's not 4 because the head is already enclosed. So there's only 3 gaps in this one because I've already put the hat on the head. All right, so now zooming back out. All right, we're going to, only because I'm going to be tilting, I'm going to have to rearrange my table so I can put the ScanNCut up here. So I'm going to do a couple things that we'll be using a little bit later in the tutorial. And that is I'm going to stamp a couple sentiments here. Even though we're going to just work on the snowman right now, I'm going to do the stamping just for efficiency. I want to stamp the sentiments over here so I can show you another tip and trick, because I'm all about tips and tricks and different ways of doing things so that you can decide for yourself what the best way is for you. I'm going to take the Let It Snow sentiment, and let's just take, so for my treats, I used a lot of different colors that coordinate, but I'm just going to show you how to use the Blueberry Bushel for now. So I used Blueberry Bushel. That's one of the colors. I used Real Red. I used Shaded Spruce. Okay, I used coordinating colors for stamping these sentiments. Okay, but for now, okay, I'm just going to show you, let's put this over here, just the Blueberry Bushel. Okay, these are the 3 colors I'm using, but I don't expect you to have all the same colors I have, but a lot of my customers bought Blueberry Bushel because they saw me using Blueberry Bushel in a different tutorial when I made the snowman cards, because this is a great color for not just the sentiments, but it was great for making snow and things like that. So we're going to say, let it snow a couple times, only because we always do things a couple times. Let's make sure my mat's still under there. Yes, my mat is still under there. Oh, the first time you stamp something, by the way, let me just find a piece of scrap paper. The first time you stamp something, it's never going to come out really good. Here, so I just use a piece of scrap paper or one of my stamping mats just to do the first stamp, because I don't want to waste the first stamp on the Whisper White. Okay, so there's Let It Snow. Let's do that a few times so I can use it a little bit later for something I'm going to show you. All right, and then you'd clean your stamps and all that good stuff. All right, so we are ready now to clean my table a little bit and to bring my machine a little bit closer. So I'm going to move my Hershey Nuggets, move my snowman a bit, and the moment we've all been waiting for, we're going to put this on a mat. What I love about the CM350 is that you can load the mats from either direction. That's what I really love, because then when your mat starts being quirky, we'll just load it upside down just because we can. When your mat starts being quirky, you can just load it from the other side. See? That's what I like. Actually, I always get asked this all the time. Which machine do you recommend? I'm still recommending, even though I have the newer model, the SDX, I still like, for cutting stamped images, I really prefer the CM350 or ScanNCut 2, the one I'm showing in this series. It actually does a better job cutting stamped images because I want less sensitivity, not more. And so I'm actually happy with the way it does this. All right, so I've loaded the mat. I didn't load the mat. I put the paper onto the mat, and now I'm going to load the mat, and then I'm going to pull the machine even closer. So you can see the actual screen. So I always like, when I'm loading the mat, I always like to put one hand here, and then I put the load mat button, which I'll show you. But be careful of that roller. You don't want to get your hand caught in the roller. All right. Let's see. I need to tilt my camera a bit. I'm going to see if you see the load mat button, which you can't. So, making sure you can see all the buttons. There we go. Now you can see all the buttons. Now what I did, just so in case you're new to the ScanNCut, is I just used the load mat button. I just used this button here because I don't want the mat to fall off my table. And I've just loaded the mat. So now we're going to, and I had just done an alignment before this tutorial. So let's start at the very place where you would be. All right, so let's go home. I'm going to go, oh, got to get out of here. All right, so where you'd be if you turned on your machine, you would be at the point of this. You would have loaded your mat, and you're going to see pattern and scan. We are going to use scan right now. Okay, scan. We're going to directly cut out these snowmen. We're going to use direct cut. We're not saving them, we're directly cutting them. Okay, we're going to, this is asking where do you want to store the information? Right on the machine, store it on the machine. We're using black and white recognition mode, and we're going to click start. The CM350 goes ahead and scans the whole 12 by 12 sheet. In the SDX model, you have the option of only scanning part of the sheet. You can use a 6 by 12 scan, but in the CM350, which we're using, you have to do a 12 by 12 scan. All right, we're going to say okay. Now, it did a pretty good job. Now, it must have, this one, it didn't, the twinning, the two snowmen down there, it didn't quite get them all. So we're just going to do the top two for a minute. We'll work on the bottom two later. Okay, so what I've done is I put a selection around the top two snowmen. Because I've tried this without the outline distance and the arms almost fell off because it was too close to the arms, I recommend an outline distance for these snowmen. Okay, so we're going to click on this, and we're going to put a 0.04 outline distance around the snowmen. Okay, and what that'll do is, I'm just going to zoom in, it'll put a little outline distance around the snowmen so that we they cut out as one nice piece. Okay, so we're going to say okay. And there we have our snowman shapes. Okay, so let's just go ahead and cut this. Now we're going to use a blade depth of 4. With Whisper White cardstock using the CM350, we're using a blade depth of 4. Okay, so that's what we used for regular Whisper White cardstock, and we're going to go ahead and say cut. Okay, we're going to see it in 1 minute after we cut these. Okay, we are finished cutting. We say okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and unload the mat and get the snowman, and then I'm going to show you something else. Okay, so we're going to say unload the mat. We're going to say okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is when you want to get the snowman off of the mat, you're going to tilt the mat a little bit. You can put your little spatula under there or just peel off the snowman. Okay, I want to get rid of these snowmen. Okay. Now those of you that want to watch me figure out how to fix this, you stay around because we don't need the twins for the next part. Okay, I'm going to show you this part now. I'm going to show you how to cut out these sentiments. Okay, and then we're going to go back and do a troubleshooting after we color. That way, those of you that want to stick around to the end of the video and watch me master how to cut out these little twin snowmen, you can watch me do that. So what we're going to do now is we've cut out the snowman, we've cut out the stamped images. I'm going to still show you how to color them. They did a great job. We have an outline distance of 0.01 around them. Okay, so now this is great. Okay, we're doing good. Now we're going to click on home. Okay, delete all patterns. Okay, now what we're going to do is this is a little trick I have for you. I already know I could scan these in and put little different shapes around these, let it snow, but I know already that I want in the pattern, I want to go to pattern. I want circles that are 1.5 inches. Okay, I already know this sentiment fits on 1.5 inches. I've been stamping let it snow till the cows come home, as they say, or all the time. I'm keep on let it snow, and I've been stamping them into 1.5 inch circles. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and make 4 circles, just because I can teach you something about this. Okay, I'm going to make 4 circles, even though I only have 3 sentiments stamped. We're going to make an extra circle. So let's just say set. Now, where are our let it snow? Okay, remember we stamped 3 of that. We stamped them onto the mat. If we use what's called background scanning, click on this background scan. It will scan in the 3 let it snows, which are around here. Okay, let's stick background scanning and start. It's gonna make sense as you see what I'm doing here. I'm showing you another way to cut out stamped images, because there's so many ways to do this project, and I'm showing you how to cut out stamped images. Now what I'm going to do is take the 1.5 inch circles and put them over the areas where the let it snow is. So we're going to put one there. We'll even zoom in and see how close we got. And we'll put one there. And we can fix where they go in just a minute. Okay, and we're going to put one there. And I'm going to put another extra circle there for good measure, just because I want to show you what you could just do with the extra circles. We're going to say okay. Oh, actually, we're going to say, before we say okay, let's go into this editing mode and see if we can't get a little bit more accurate. Okay, so in the editing mode, I'm going to zoom in. See, I wasn't very accurate. Okay, so now if I zoom in, I can even be more accurate. And I can make sure my circles aren't overlapping. And then what I can do is use what's called a nudging, meaning move them 1 pixel at a time. Okay, so this is one way to do all your let it snows. And I can see if I go in here, I can move it 1 pixel at a time to really get accurate, so that, you know, I can just go around like that. It's really nice. It's really nice to be able to move it 1 pixel at a time so that you're not cutting off any of the letters. Okay, so that's just an example. Now, let's make sure that circle is not overlapping the circle to the left. We're going to go ahead and cut out the circles. Again, we're using a blade depth of 4 and Whisper White cardstock, and we're going to say cut. This isn't even going to take a whole minute, so I'm just going to let the camera run. Sometimes it says 1 minute, but that's because that's the lowest increment it can estimate. Okay, I'm going to unload the mat. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to unload the mat. And we're going to get back to the machine later. For those that stick around and watch me figure out how to fix these twin snowmen. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is show you how to get these off of the mat. Okay, so we're just going to get these off the mat, and we're going to use the other final circle. So the reason I'm taking the whole mat off is obviously I think I did a good job enclosing these snowmen, but the ScanNCut doesn't. That means it has a personality. Every ScanNCut has a personality. So I'm going to save this and move it to another part of the mat later. That's one of my troubleshooting techniques. Okay, so we're going to take these Let It Snow off of the mat. Okay, so they're perfectly centered, perfectly cut out already. But, if you're doing a load of these for craft fairs like I do, I showed you in a previous tutorial when we did the doggy treats, I talked about cutting out loads of circles and at one time. So in the doggy treat tutorial, I showed you how to cut out circles, and I said, let's put these onto a page. We made 1.5 inch circles, and we were able to get 49 using a pattern interval of 1. We were able to get 49 circles on one piece of whisper weight cardstock. So the other way of making your stamp sentiments is just like this. You have your 49 circles that you cut out. See, I'm just showing you different ways to do things. One way was to use background scan. Okay, just so you know what we're up to. One way was to use background scan. If you only have a couple of them, use background scan for your sentiments. Center your sentiments. Another way is to cut out 49 circles with one piece of whisper weight cardstock. Lay them all on your mat. Tap, 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 Blueberry Bushel. That's the ink I'm using. And stamp your 49 circles. The benefit of doing it this way is efficiency. You can get 49 done. And if you mess up, you just flip the circle over. I didn't mess this one up, but I'm just showing you. If you mess up, you just flip the circle over and stamp it again. And that's just another way of stamping all the sentiments. All right, so we did that part. We got our snowman. Let me show you how to color, and then we're going to go back to troubleshooting. So coloring the snowman. I'm just going to color this. I'm going to color both of this part of the noses, and we'll color. I just want to show you how I do a little bit of shading, just slightly. So what I take is my light Pool Party. So our alcohol blends markers come in 2 colors. In sets of light and dark. I like the light Pool Party for this because it kind of matches this whole Coastal Cabana color going on. It sort of matches. Now they don't make Coastal Cabana. We don't make blends in the Coastal Cabana color. That's one of the colors used in the suite. But we do make Pool Party blends. And to me, that was the color that most closely matched. So what I like to do is I take the bigger side, the bigger brush side, and I just go like this to shade my little snowman. I just go around to the left, and I just kind of figured that out based on where Stampin' Up! Did their shading. And I go over that little black shaded area. I'm going to show you this closer up as well. And I just go over that little shaded area like that. Okay, so I'm coloring my snowman slightly, and he looks kind of cool to color him. It looks just more fun than just leaving them plain. But again, that's just my particular detail that I like to do. So we'll do it to this one too. I like little details on my things, and I can even show you how to make snowmen shine a little bit. Oh, we forgot to erase the marks. I just noticed that. Even though it probably doesn't matter because the pencil marks blend in so well, it's good to erase them using like a white eraser. Okay, so let me show you some. Okay, so here's one I colored earlier. You can just use a really light line. Oh, that one was, I did sorry, let's find some. That one was done in another color. Here we go. Here's some that I colored earlier. When they dry, they change color a little bit. Okay, and so I want to just erase those extra little pencil marks. So I'm just using a white eraser. Don't ever use the pink eraser at the end of your pencil because it'll leave a stain on your paper. Okay, so now this one only has 3 marks because the hat obviously doesn't have a mark. All right, so 3 little marks, and we'll color the carrot nose as well. And to color the carrot nose, I just used, you can either use a pumpkin pie marker if you have the set of markers, or you can use a pumpkin pie blends. I use the dark pumpkin pie. And by the way, if you don't have blends markers, you use colored pencils. Okay, so I've colored the carrot nose. I'll bring that closer in just a minute. Coloring the carrot nose on this one, and then I need to do the erasing. So I'll bring it closer so you can see what we just did. So I use either a marker or an alcohol blends. Okay, so let's erase those extra marks. Then we're going to go back and troubleshoot. All right, so let's see. 1, 2, 3. There were 4 marks. 1, 2, there. The other one's over by the arm. Okay, so beautiful. And you can erase them after you've done the alcohol blends. It won't hurt. Okay, so if you want to also use little real red for the holly, some shaded spruce for the band of the hat, some basic black for the hat. I'll color that. I'll color this one by the time we get to the next video, but because this video is really about we're putting these hats now onto your snowman. So that's your homework. Your homework is before the next tutorial is to go ahead and attach your hats using glue. And what I like to do is I like to lean the hat a little bit. So now for this, I'm just going to use a fine tip glue. I'm using fine tip glue. So this is the hat we created last. This is just called Tombow glue. Put a little bit glue on your hat and then stick your hat on the snowman and then maybe tilt it a little bit. Either direction, it doesn't matter, but it's just kind of cute to tilt the hat. I sort of tilt it in the direction of the hollies going in. And the reason I like to use glue, the real reason is it's forgiving, and you just sort of can wiggle the hat around so you're not blocking the eyes. And then you can wiggle it to the point where you want it. So that's why I like using glue. But then we're going to pop these up onto the topper with dimensionals. So attach all your hats to all your snowmen, or if you're doing this kind of snowman, color all your snowmen for the next part of the tutorial. All right, so crafty friends, I do not let the ScanNCut beat me, and we should have this. This is what I was trying to show you, these twin snowmen. So when something doesn't cut, there's no sense in doing the same thing again. So in other words, I'm not going to stick this. I know these are enclosed, but I'm going to go ahead and try to fix the enclosed mark over here because that one might not be fully enclosed. However, this should have scanned in as one image. When it doesn't, I'm not going to try the same part of the mat twice. Why? Because you know what? Every machine has a personality, every ScanNCut. So what I'm going to do is cut the snowmen off and stick them on a different. Now I'm going to stick them in a part of the mat which I know is successful. So in other words, I knew this part of the mat, the top right, was successful with the last snowman round, right? This part of the mat's probably scanning better than this part of the mat. So I'm going to move these first before I go trying to do too many pencil tricks. I mean, I will fix this one little line, but basically the way I'm troubleshooting first before I go fixing all the lines and doing all this work is I'm just going to move it to another part of the mat. By moving something to another part of the mat, you know, you should be able to troubleshoot that way. Okay, so that's my troubleshooting technique for you. All right, so let's do that. And we have a crowded table again, but that's just the way I craft. We're going to load the mat, then I'll bring the machine closer and hopefully not have another crafting avalanche. Okay, so my painter's tape trick. I always like to teach tips and tricks. So if you're not sure, if it's not really sticky, you just sort of put a little piece of painter's tape there. It helps hold things onto your mat. All right, so now we need to go back to the beginning and try this little twin snowman once again. Okay, and the twin snowman I'd probably use more for cards, but you can use them on these same treat toppers we're doing. Okay, delete all patterns. Okay, we're gonna go faster now. Scan, direct cut, save to the machine, black and white recognition mode. Because this is a review, right? So we are just doing it faster. Come on, Snowman Twins. And if it doesn't recognize, I just do the pencil marks right while it's still on the mat. Okay, we're gonna say okay and see what happened. Okay, we are going to get my stylus. It looks like it did a good job. It looks like it recognized them as one. Let's frame the image. We're gonna frame, okay, just that part. We only need the top right. We're gonna put an outline distance of 0.04 around them. And we're gonna say okay, and we're gonna say okay. And voila, we have fixed our problem. Okay, so those of you that stuck around got to see me troubleshoot. I will not be defeated by the scan and cut. We're gonna cut out the snowman. Let it run. I'm just gonna let it run just to do less video editing later. And I will introduce you to the next part of our project as we wrap things up. Okay, we say okay, we unload the mat, we say okay. All right. Now, what I'm gonna do before the next video is I'll go ahead and put some cute little hats on them. And what's nice about when you have Snowman Twins, I'm just lifting off the Whisper White, and I'm gonna bend the mat a little bit. Okay, bend the mat. You can use a spatula. But be careful because these are stuck together, right? You want Snowman Twins for your cards, for your treats, whatever. Yay, that's what I was trying to show you, that little cool trick, so I'm glad it worked. Now you can color them in, carrot noses, a little bit of pool party, give it a little blue, and put 2 different kinds of hats on it. So when you have the Snowman Twins, you can put a top hat on one and a different hat on the other. I'll be doing that before the next video. But what I want to do is introduce the third part of our series. So your homework is to go ahead and cut out. You've already cut out your nugget wrappers in part 1. You cut out your treat toppers and you cut out the little hats. Okay, and now in part 2, I showed you how to cut out the Let It Snow, the sentiments, and how to cut out the snowmen. Okay, so your homework is now to attach all the hats to all your snowmen, to make sure all your nuggets are wrapped, and then just to gather all your parts, because in part 3, I'm going to show you how to cut out cardstock using your CM350. We're going to cut out the cardstock that goes not only on the trays, okay, behind the snowman. We're going to use coordinating colors of cardstock. Okay, I'm also going to show you how to cut out the circles in cardstock that go behind the sentiments. And finally, we're going to be assembling our final project. Okay, if you need 2-inch bags, they'll be linked in the description, 2-inch bags that you can get, and also help you get ready for the next part of this series. Thank you for watching. This is The Papered Chef. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.